So Netflix just dropped a brand new Spy Kids movie last month, and I would not be surprised if this is the first that any of you are hearing about it, because I think they kind of forgot to tell anyone. Spy Kids Armageddon is both the 5th entry in one of the greatest film franchises of all time, and also its 2nd reboot. And today we're going to talk about both of those things because I hate myself. Just as a refresher to anyone that hasn't seen Spy Kids in a while or was, deprived of any joy in their childhoods, it's a series headed by visionary director Robert Rodriguez, who in between making real movies, really loves making these completely batshit kids films like Shark Boy and Lava Girl and Shorts, for all 3 people who remember what that one is. They're all really weird and insane, but in a way that kind of works, as if it was like actually a 5-year-old in charge of the plot of a $50 million movie, which is actually what happened with Shark Boy and Lava Girl. The first Spy Kids follows Junie and Carmen Cortez, who learn that their parents are actually spies working for an organization called the OSS, and have to follow in their footsteps to save the world from the host of a children's TV show and his army of robot children and thumbs. Spy Kids 2 is the one that everyone loves way more because Steve Buscemi says the funny line,
"Do you think God stays in heaven?"
And Spy Kids 3 is the one where they go into a video game to fight 4 Sylvester Stallones and everything just kind of goes off the fucking rails.
Somebody ring the dingster!
But they're so weird and unique that, I'm able to tell you more about them than, most of the other movies I've seen. That scene with Elijah Wood is fucking iconic. By the time we got to Spy Kids 4, Junie and Carmen were old as fuck. So for this one, they went for doing a soft reboot to basically do the exact same premise again, but with new kids while still being kind of loosely connected to the other 3. I've seen Spy Kids 4 probably as many times as I've seen Spy Kids 3, and I have already seen 3 more times than any human being should ever have seen 3. Except I got to see this one at the cinema with that stupid fucking aroma scope thing they had with it. All the Time in the World brought back one of the dumbest gimmicks in cinema history with smell-o-vision, where you get this fucking scratch and sniff card, and at random points during the movie, it would tell you which one of the 8 spots to huff. And I don't remember anything about it except that all of it smelled like dog shit, maybe literally. I mean, I think it's kind of cute how Robert loves putting all these gimmicks in his kids' movies, with the 3D glasses for Spy Kids 3D, obviously. But I don't know, even as a kid, I was kind of what is this shit, Obviously, that's the reason why they had to reboot from the ground up and not do a Spy Kids 5, because even Robert Rodriguez can't figure out what the fuck 5D is meant to be.
Stay away from my Spy Kids.
The new parents this time round are Jessica Alba playing Carmen and Junie's aunt, and Jeff Winger from Community playing Wilbur Wilson, who hosts a show called Spy Hunter, where the joke is that he doesn't know his wife is a spy because he's not very good at his job.
Every time I search for the spies among us.
And his little arc in the movie is him realizing that he's working so hard doing the complete opposite of his job that he never gets to spend any time with his kids. His children are so neglected that they literally make bets with each other for money for if he's going to ignore them for when he gets home. It's pretty bad.
Spend the time now. It's the one thing you'll always find time for later. Is regret.
His daughter Rebecca's whole thing is that she's an epic prankster who hates her stepmom. And her brother Cecil has so little to write about that the trivia section on his Spy Kids wiki page says the most interesting things about him is that he owns a DSi and gets bullied.
Something stinks around here. I always knew you were a butthead.
His defining character trait is that he gets hit in the face a lot because Robert Rodriguez thinks that kids walking into things is the funniest thing in the world. He's just like me for real. They also throw in a baby who actually has no purpose other than because it's funny that Jessica Alba has to do spy stuff with a baby strapped to her, I guess. And all she does throughout the whole movie is vomit and shit everywhere. And she doesn't even get a name. They just call her Spy Baby in the credits.
Oh, baby's first bad guy.
And also a talking robot dog voiced by Ricky Gervais.
Someone put that on YouTube.
He doesn't really add a whole lot to the story, but it is a late 2000s kids movie, so you gotta have a talking dog in there somewhere.
Butt bombs.
The story in this one is that time is rapidly accelerating because of a guy called the Timekeeper who wears this dumbass clock hat. And he's the only thing in this entire movie that looks like something out of the old Spy Kids films.
You waste my time, and I'll waste you.
His dramatic backstory that we find out later is that his dad made a time machine that he got stuck inside when he was a kid, and it froze him in time for so long that he had to watch his dad die right in front of him, and all he wants is to go back in time so he can spend time with him. And it turns out that all of his goons are also him that have already gone back in time and failed because no matter how hard he tries, he'll never be able to change the past. Yeah, get his ass, Spy Kids. Fuck that guy. Also, someone needs to make a fucking drinking game out of how many times they say time or make time puns. It is actually incredible how much mileage they get out of these jokes.
Then I'll have all the time in the world.
It's time to get serious.
Better luck next time.
He's really starting to tick me off.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Clocked ya.
I don't know whether it was because I watched Spy Kids 4 right after I watched Armageddon and that just made it look like an amazing movie in comparison, but I have never been a Spy Kids 4 hater. It's not even close to being as good as the other ones in my opinion, and it does sometimes feel more like shorts than Spy Kids, but at least they did get Carmen and Junie back for this one.
Just following my instincts.
Well, your instincts.
They have this whole scene where they go back to the old Spy Kids division, which the OSS must have shut down in between movies after they found out about child labor laws, and it's got like all of the old props and gadgets from the other movies and the Spy Kids trilogy playing on an endless loop on DVD. I don't actually know if this part would make any sense if you haven't seen the other movies. Like, aside from it setting up the gadgets they use later, it's basically like just fan service. But goddamn it if I didn't have the biggest smile on my face when I saw the thumbs. Carmen is in this for most of the movie, and she looks like she is having so much fun here.
Oh shit, Taki mushrooms.
Junie doesn't show up until the last half hour, but when he does, it is one of the most hype moments I've ever experienced in a movie. They both become more important near the end, where every OSS agent gets frozen in time, and they are once again the only people in this entire organization capable of doing anything of value. They do like a lot to try and tie this one into the other movies. Like, they even get Danny Trejo back for like a literal 2-second cameo. I mean, maybe he had a longer scene and they cut it or something, but I mean, he's in there, I guess. And there is a single shot of a blurry frame photo of their parents from the first movies in the background, which is good enough for me.
You're the coolest dad ever.
The way this movie ends is actually a perfect jumping off point for more sequels. Like, Junie and Carmen decide to head the new Spy Kids division and start picking random children off the street. And that feels like the most perfect setup for more terrible Spy Kids movies, instead of doing what they ended up doing. Spy Kids Armageddon is the second entry in the Robert Rodriguez Netflix paycheck universe. Unlike Spy Kids 4, this one is a complete reboot. So this time we've got another set of new kids and parents who are both spies this time, with one of them being played by Zachary Levi. I'm not sure why we're holding on this article for so long. The premise of this one is that the two of them have this thing called the Armageddon Code, which is a virus that can hack into any device on the planet. And it means in order to stop anyone from getting a hold of it, they have to make sure that their kids have like a really limited amount of screen time, to the point where they're literally putting their phones in boxes, and the only way that anyone could get into their Wi-Fi and steal it is if their kids ignore them and then sneak off to play video games without them knowing. But they would literally, absolutely do that. The bad guy in this one is some dude called the King, who's invented a game called High Score, that I think is like this really weird cross between Temple Run and like League of Legends, I want to say. And he wants to use the Armageddon device to create a virus that forces people to play a level of his game before they can access any kind of technology, which is like such a non-issue if you just don't suck at games, I guess.
So now we just have to inspire the world to be better. You know, instead of forcing everyone to be gamers.
Because the most dire future that this movie can imagine is people having to crank 90s in Fortnite to access their mortgage repayments.
I've been trying to get into my bank account, but I have to fight this Heck Knight. I don't even know what the heck a Heck Knight is.
Which is something I absolutely believe the CEO of Epic Games would do, honestly. And the only way they stop him is by becoming Spy Kids over the course of a few hours and then going into the game with these Raid Shadow Legends ass-looking costumes to beat the shit out of him. So as well as taking the entire premise of Spy Kids 1, basically the same MacGuffin they were after in Spy Kids 2 and 4, they've also just stolen the video game stuff from 3. First of all, how dare you? And do you remember the scene in Spy Kids 3D where they fight on the platform with the staffs, and also the scene where they surfboard on lava? Because I do. A lot of the story in this one feels super similar to Spy Kids 4, which was already taking a ton from Spy Kids 1. Like, this is the third time he's doing this story, and it pretty much goes the exact same way every single time. There are so many nods to the original movie in Armageddon that it just starts to feel like plagiarism after a while.
Your full name, please.
I don't use my full name, it's too long.
Carmen Elizabeth Juanita Ecosca Brava Cortez.
Your full name.
We never use our full names. They're too long. Patricia Angelita Sorrow Feliz Rhiannon Tango Torres.
And like, as well, they've got like the glasses that can see the bad guys properly from the end of Spy Kids 3, and the stop motion skeletons from Spy Kids 2 as well. Legit, I would not be surprised if you just told me that like they got ChatGPT to combine the Wikipedia summaries of every Spy Kids movie with like how much of this is just recycled from the other ones. Legit, I feel like even though Spy Kids 4 literally had Carmen and Junie in it, somehow it was still less on the nose than the references in this one. I just want to say though that in Armageddon, the kids don't find out their parents are spies until about 30 minutes into the movie. So the idea that they train for like a little bit and then are just immediately prodigies is the exact thing that a cynical and depressed adult man like me would be complaining about in a kid's movie. In the original Spy Kids, they actually bother to explain how Junie and Carmen are able to do all of this spy shit so quickly, because at the beginning, there's a bit where they complain about how their parents make them do training every morning without ever knowing why. It's only annoying to me because they bothered to care about this in the first movie. I'm not being fucking CinemaSins, okay? The beginning of the movie even makes a point to show us that they try and sneak past their parents so they can go and play Fortnite, and that they are really, really bad at it.
They are very, very obedient children.
Have you met our son?
Yes, and they are asleep in their beds. I thought my own
But it does make the fact that the bad guy at the end gets wailed on by an 8-year-old who learned how to fight literally half an hour ago way funnier. I do really love that the one consistent thing in these movies is that the OSS absolutely fucking sucks. Like, they are constantly shown to be completely incapable of doing anything. Like, no wonder these guys have to hire children. The only reason they bring the kids to their headquarters in the first place is because they can't beat a single level of the game and access their computers.
I wouldn't do that if I were you. Me neither.
I've played a few video games in my day. You ever heard of GoldenEye? Watch this.
I feel like what's missing in this one that even 4 had a bit of trouble with is like 2 of the most important elements of a Spy Kids movie, and that's the nightmare fuel and the fun side characters. Like, one of the most fun parts of the original movies is that Robert Rodriguez has like half of Hollywood on his payroll. Like, where's the George Clooney president? Where's Grandma? And where's the Dingster? Spy Kids Armageddon has Devlin, and he's so unimportant that I haven't even mentioned him until now.
We don't believe you.
Trust me.
I'm honestly a little sad that Robert doesn't try and traumatize an entire generation of children anymore, like with Floops Fluglies and Spy Kids 1 and the entirety of Spy Kids 3. There's nothing even remotely scary in either Armageddon or 4, aside from like the inevitability of aging, I guess. Literally, the main villain of High Score is called a Heck Knight.
Defeat the Heck Knight?
Where's the teeth, Spy Kids? And like the CGI is like actually kind of fine for the most part, and only in a Spy Kids movie would that be a bad thing, because now we can't even laugh about it. And it just doesn't have any really quotable lines either, which means there's nothing to even meme here. Like, it's got nothing on the entire screenplay of Spy Kids 3D.
We never even got an email address.
There's a reason that the Spy Kids trilogy and Shark Boy and Lava Girl have stayed alive through memes for all of these years because of how creative and funny they are. While most people don't even know that Spy Kids 4 and Armageddon even exist because no one can even be bothered making fun of them.
We gotta go right now. You're not safe here.
But it's a safe house.
It's missing, like, the source, you know? Also, this is so unimportant, but it drives me nuts. In their gamer room, they have 2 separate TVs on the wall right next to each other. Like, why don't you just get one really big TV? Like, actually, who the fuck does that? They're both playing on the same console at the same time, so it's not like they need more than one screen for that. And that Joy-Con is still connecting, by the way. They have a big TV in their living room that Shazam gets thrown into later, so they do know about the existence of larger TVs. So I don't understand the reasoning behind this decision to put 2 TVs right next to each other in the same room.
That's my TV!
And in their living room, they have a keyboard and a mouse for their TV. What the fuck? What is... But honestly, having watched this one 2 times now, it's really not that bad. If I was still like 8, this would be a fire movie night. This is not the last we've seen of Spy Kids though, because from the sounds of it, it looks like Robert Rodriguez is going to be sticking with Netflix to make his kids movies from now on. Like with that Shark Boy and Lava Girl sequel he did a couple years ago. And the less said about that, the better. He did say that he wouldn't be against bringing Junie and Carmen back again for future sequels though, which means I'm probably going to watch them anyway. It could still be in the same world is literally a threat. I guess there's no reason this one can't take place in the same universe as the other ones. Like, I guess nothing really happens that means the other ones didn't. Assuming the OSS just forgot they already had a Spy Kids division, I guess. And yeah, I think that's about everything. There is absolutely not a Spy Kids reboot cartoon on Netflix that I forgot about until right now. Alright, thanks for listening to me talk about children's movies for like 15 minutes. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys all in like 2 years when Spy Kids 6 comes out and makes 5 look like the greatest movie ever made.